Hello, everyone, and we welcome you to Shifting Tides once again. Today, we are delighted to bring to you Jen McCarthy from London. Jen, who is known as a healer of the healers. She prefers to call herself the spiritual activator, someone who helps people awaken to their own truth, to their own higher self. Jen had her spiritual moment in India, in the Himalayas. So let's welcome Jen McCarthy. Welcome, Jen. Welcome to Shifting Tides. Lovely to have you on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So Jen, first of all, having read your story, I believe you had your first spiritual aha moment in India.
Yes, I did.
That's fascinating. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I was 21 years old and I was traveling in India for the first time, and I was guided to go up to Chamba in the Himalayan mountains. And as we got to Chamba, we were invited to go to an orchard. And so as we were preparing to go to the orchard, this woman came up to me and she just ignored everyone else. There was about 10 of us. And she made a beeline for me and she said, "You must chant the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya." And I'd never even heard of the mantra Om Namah Shivaya. I was very young, I was very naive,
Yeah.
And so, but she was really convinced me to repeat that mantra. And so as I went on this trek, which was about a 9-hour trek with a really, really heavy rucksack up many, many mountains, it was, I was repeating the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And then we got to the top of the mountain, and then I heard this voice within me say, "You need to be on your own." And so I walked away from the group. I left the group over there and I walked over to the edge of the mountain. And then I looked up at the sky and I was singing Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And then I looked up in the sky and all of a sudden I saw this flash of white light. And in that moment, it just completely blasted my third eye open. And I didn't even know that I had a third eye at that point. But all of a sudden, my third eye just blasted open and I went into full and complete God consciousness. And I saw God absolutely everywhere. And I was getting like downloads upon downloads of information about the true nature of reality, about how everything is one. We are all one. Every blade of grass, every grain of sand is all intricately woven into the perfection of creation. I understood that we're all so precious. We're all so beloved by God. There is no human words that can possibly describe the amount of love that we each are worthy of and are receiving.
But tell me, Jen, when you say that your third eye opened, were you familiar with this term at all, and what did it feel like?
Well, now the thing was, I had read quite a lot of spiritual books, but it was like they had remained two-dimensional concepts to me. So love was a two-dimensional concept, eternity was a two-dimensional concept, third eye was a two-dimensional concept. It was just a word on a page. I didn't have any direct experience of what that actually is. So I was reading books about chakras, but I didn't have a direct experience of my third eye, of my heart chakra. But in that moment, I suddenly became an embodiment of love, eternity, timelessness, multidimensionality, God consciousness. All my chakras were like firing on all cylinders. I had a full Kundalini awakening. So anyway, so back to that experience. I was on top of the mountain and then I felt the presence of all these ascended beings, and they were like celebrating with like maracas, going, "Woo, one soul has woken up," because it's a very, very rare thing for one soul to absolutely truly awaken from the matrix. Is a very, very rare thing. Yeah. And so I just felt this celebration energy of just like, oh my God, like we did it, because it was all my team. It was a big thing to have that moment. So it was this like celebration energy of like we all did it. It was a success. That timeline was complete. And so the light then entered throughout my system, and then as it got to my sacral area, that was all the place in my body where I held fear. And as I was a very, very deep soul and a very highly intelligent soul, I carried quite a lot of fear in my sacral center. So as this light of God kind of like merged with my sacral center, I just started like releasing, it just started dissolving all my fear. And I realized that fear isn't real, that I realized that only love is real. If it isn't love, it's not real. It exists in the realm of samsara, in the realm of illusion, the Maya. Now it appears real, but it's not real in the eternal sense of the word, in terms of what actually gets stored within the Akashic fields. It's only love that is stored within the Akashic realms of eternity.
But you know, when you hear stories of people who've had this kind of an experience and they have really undergone a deep spiritual experience, it's so overwhelming that it usually just faints them out, or they go into another zone. And did any such thing happen to you?
No. Because I'm a very, very grounded person. It's all in my astrology. Like I have like moon in Capricorn. I have a Capricorn ascendant. So no matter how far I expanded spiritually, my feet never ever left the ground. And not once had one single person questioned my connection. Like it's so real. It's so like no one's even said to me, oh, I think you're a bit mad, Jen. I haven't even had that. Though I am occupying a completely brand new sort of like reality of consciousness, I'm so grounded, I'm so embodied that people don't even realize that.
Yeah. And how long did this experience last, this feeling last?
It lasted 6 months and it just didn't stop. It was just like continuous Kundalini rushes, continuous angelic downloads. And it was like I was just in a state of perpetual bliss for 6 months. And it just wouldn't stop. Like no matter what, I was just like thinking, oh, this is just never going to end. Like I literally am in permanent bliss. But then actually it did kind of like reside when I returned back to the UK. So I was in India for 6 months where I had that experience. And then I got back to the UK and I just very, 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 very sort of like gently landed. And the reason why my spiritual, I was still really, really, I will always be like at one with God. Like there is nothing that will ever stop that. But coming back to England, where it's so secular, where it's so not unspiritual, and everyone has been so programmed to be so superficial and materialistic, that being in this energetic grid took me out of that very, very high ecstatic vibration and kind of like grounded me more.
And you were raised as a Catholic, right?
Yeah.
So when you saw God and you met God in India, what was that God like? Was it Jesus or?
No. God was just pure love. It was just another word for love, just love. And that was the first thing I realized when I stared God in the face. I was like, my religion has told me that you're a really scary man with a grey beard who's just angry and judging everyone. And I was like, that is the absolute opposite of the truth of God. God is just pure love, wisdom, intelligence, creative force of all that is. Like it's total bliss. Like bliss doesn't even come close. Bliss times a million is God. That's like a quote. Bliss times a million is God.
yeah, exactly. So when you came back home, so how did your family take to that? Your experience?
They were really, really grateful. They could see that I had completely and utterly shifted, and that I had awoken spiritually. And they were really, they were quite honoured to have a spiritually awakened person in the family. You know, it's a great thing. And yeah.
And did it clash? Did it clash with the with the faith of being a Catholic at all?
No. My family wasn't Catholic. My family, like, we went to Catholic schools, but my family wasn't practicing Catholic.
Okay. And also you're a musician and a singer.
I am, yes.
So usually creativity, any kind of creativity is a very strong foundation to grow spiritually. and to
Yes.
evolve. So how did music play that role in your spiritual growth?
Well, I think it was kind of my gift. Like I could sing pitch perfect when I was 5, and so I always had a musical gift. And so when I had my spiritual awakening on top of the mountain, the day after, I woke up, and then that's when the angelic communication began. And then I would just be getting like angelic codes, like downloading into my consciousness, and they were telling me about my role, who I am, what my job is, what my mission on earth. And the first thing they said to me is my job is to work with children. My main sort of like gift is with children. And then they said to me, your second gift is music, and your gift is to transmit God consciousness through music. So when you sing, it will bypass the mind, and it will go straight to the heart, and people will remember God.
Wow. And before you had that experience, what was your life's purpose? I mean, what did you want to do in life? And post that, how did that change?
What I wanted to do at that time was I wanted to travel. I was very, very much wanting to travel. I was called to India. I was called to Nepal. I was called to Bali, Thailand, Australia. So what I wanted to do at that time in my life was travel. I had done my education. That was all fine, and it was time for me to travel. So after I had my experience, I still wanted to travel, but I also knew that I had a mission in England as well, and that I had to bring these spiritual codes back to England to help people wake up in England.
And now, what work you're doing, it's obviously a result of all the downloads you've had in all these years. Yeah. So what are those downloads? If you could just explain, because I do know that you do a lot of twin flame understanding. What is a twin flame? And so if you could just talk a little bit about that, what exactly was that download?
So on the second day of my spiritual awakening, I started receiving many, many angelic downloads, and a lot of them were specifically connected to Yeshua and Magdalene, and the true love story between Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And so I then received information about who Mary Magdalene is and who she was at that time. And so this is what my team told me. I had never read this anywhere. This was just a direct experience of what my team told me. They said to me that Mary Magdalene was born as like a high avatar being, something like the Dalai Lama, in the sense that people knew that she was going to be a big soul, was going to be incarnated. And so when she was born, she was recognized as being an avatar soul. And straight away, she was whisked away, and she was put into the temples with her mum and sisters, but she was placed into the temples of Isis in Egypt, whereby she trained as a very, very high level tantrika. She trained in the mysteries of sacred sexuality, enlightenment, and oneness. She worked with all of the goddesses and the priestesses in the temples of Isis. She was told by her connection to God that she was going to be meeting Yeshua, and that she had to prepare her vessel for her union with her divine masculine. She then proceeded to meet Yeshua around the age of about 18, 19, and she was the one that activated his enlightenment. The true enlightenment is activated by the divine feminine. The divine feminine is the one that is deemed less corruptible by Mother, Father, God. And so Mother, Father, God places the codes of enlightenment very, very much firmly in the divine feminine's hearts. So when she is completely activated, it is then through her perception, her eyes, that turns the seed of the Christ into the fruit of the Christ. It's through her perception. So they showed me all about the role of the divine feminine. They showed me all about twin flames. They explained to me the importance of twin flames. They told me about there's going to be 144,000 twin flame pairs that are going to be reincarnated at this time, because we are shifting from the 3rd dimension to the 5th dimension. And they explained to me that the frequency that is activated with twin souls is like, it's like a tuning fork. It's such a high frequency that it literally lifts the planet out of that lower density into the higher echelons. And so it was explained to me that all of these twin flames would be reincarnating at this time in order to activate those bliss codes within their frequency field, and that is going to lift the planet out of the 3rd dimension into the 5th dimension, which is basically the ascension of Mother Gaia, which we are experiencing right now.
Yeah. So when you had that experience, as I can see that the world was mainly on the 3rd dimension, right? The 3rd dimension one. So over the years, especially now, there is a upliftment. People are actually progressing from 3rd to the 5th.
Yes.
And that's where your role comes in.
Yes.
So do you feel that now you are busier or much in demand for getting onto the 5th dimension as you were 10 years ago, maybe?
Oh God, I'm way more in demand now. But you see, with me, I never ever wanted to go public. I had a lot of resistance to being a public figure, because I didn't ever want to create separation. I never wanted to be part of that paradigm that says I'm advanced and, you know, I'm on my pedestal and I'm your teacher. I had a real sort of like allergic reaction to that paradigm. And so it kind of like held me back, and it stopped me from stepping forward. But what happened was I actually connected with my twin flame on the inner planes in 2013. And he's a public figure, and my team said to me that unless I go public with my knowledge and I start sharing my codes with the world, I'm never going to meet him, because they said to me that he has to match me spiritually and I have to match him on a public level. So that was my motivation to put myself out there. But I had a lot of resistance to that.
Okay. So do you feel you're there in terms of being with your twin flame and helping humanity get to that ascension?
Oh God, yeah, 1,000,000%, absolutely 1,000,000%. And we're about to come together on the physical plane now, and it's all been divine timing. It's been waiting for this time, and so definitely massive. I mean, my inbox is filled every day with the most extraordinary love letters. Like constantly, I am flooded with love letters. Like I can't even process the effect that this teaching is having on people. I can't even process that, because it's so powerful.
And which part of the world, Jen, is this knowledge more predominant? Which part of the world?
What is my main client base?
Yeah, in the sense, who are the people? Which part of the world really? Whether it's
American.
you, pardon?
It's Americans. My 60% of my client base is American.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Not the eastern part of the world.
I do, but it just nothing compares to America. Like America's just like, I'll have probably 80% American actually. I'll have 80 Americans to 20 non-Americans.
Oh wow.
Or maybe 70-30.
Okay.
But no, it's I have a lot of English followers as well, and I have a lot of Australian. So yeah, I mean, I do have European as well.
Okay.
And I do have a lot of Indian. I mean, my Indian followers are very, very devotional, very, very deep connected.
Yeah. Also where they come. Exactly.
Yeah. And people know, yeah.
And also, Jen, usually when people have these spiritual awakenings or experiences which are very profound, they emerge out of a very cathartic or a painful experience or something that plays as a catalyst for taking them to the next level.
Yeah, that happened to me.
Yeah, so would you be able to tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so basically it was just before my spiritual awakening, and we were in Manali, and we went to this party, and I drank this bad water, and I got very, very, very bad giardia, borderline giardia dysentery, and I was in bed for about 6 days, practically delirious, and my body was purging, and then I was getting sick so much that it wasn't sick anymore, it was bile, and so I know that was my clean out for my spiritual awakening.
Okay.
I didn't know that at the time, but looking back, I wouldn't have had my spiritual awakening without that.
Yeah. And interestingly, what happens, at least this is what I've observed with myself and with lots of other people who I keep talking to, that when you are on that level, and when you are in that space where you are constantly at a level of, say, talking as with you on a fifth dimension, to retain that is a very big challenge. And also at different points in time, you do get tested. So you go like a pendulum, because all the time you're getting tested. I don't know whether that.
Yeah, I think about this a lot in my work, and this is how I explain it. Your third dimensional self is like your caterpillar self, and it is the self that is brought into the matrix program of separation and duality consciousness. So when we all incarnate into the third dimension, we all sign up for that. We all sign up to have our Kundalini energy dormant and to be brought into the whole matrix of duality consciousness.
Yeah.
Now, at some point within our evolutionary journey, if we've signed up for the awakening, our Kundalini energy will be stirred. It will be triggered. It will be activated to come out of its dormant phase into its awakened phase. Now, the moment that the Kundalini energy comes out of its asleep dormant phase, usually what happens is the feminine Kundalini wakes up first, and then she's like, wake up, and then suddenly he wakes up, and then they're both awake at the base of the spine, and in that moment they rush together and they create sacred union, sacred marriage. And then this is the Kundalini awakening. This is what happens. You go out of duality consciousness, where it's dormant, the Kundalini, where the Kundalini is awakened, and you go into union consciousness, marriage consciousness. Now, when the Kundalini energy merges at the base of the spine, they entwine, and they kind of like they spin in ecstasy because they've come back together. This then creates a momentum where the Kundalini energy begins to gets drawn up the spine. So it goes from the sacral chakra from the base chakra to the sacral chakra to the solar plexus, and it's going up, 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 up. Now, as the Kundalini energy is rising up through the centers, it is cleaning and cleansing and purging all of the programs of duality, all of the programs of fear and separation. And so that's why the Kundalini awakening can be very, very, very confronting, because you are blasted with so much light, but that light is then exposed on the darkness within your programming. And so there's no way that you can just bypass it. The process has to go through the body. That's what we signed up for. The awakening process has to go through the body. So this is where people get a bit afraid with the Kundalini awakening, because it's very, very, very confronting. And so it rises and rises. Now, when the Kundalini energy gets to the heart chakra, this is when the magic starts happening, because the heart chakra is the central point where heaven and earth converge. And so the heart chakra is truly, truly fifth dimensional consciousness. It's unity consciousness. So once the Kundalini energy rises into the heart center, it then starts emitting codes. Codes then start being expressed from your heart, and these are codes of unconditional love. Now, unconditional love is the highest frequency in the universe. So once your transmitter starts emitting unconditional love frequencies, this then sends information to your consciousness to start raising your consciousness to the angelic realms. And then once your consciousness gets raised to the angelic realms, then you start getting downloads. And then the Kundalini energy keeps rising, purging. It then arrives at the crown. And then once it arrives at the crown, it is then able to spin back around again. And then you are in your full Kundalini rush, your full Kundalini awakening.
Wow.
So what happens is that on our journey, I call it stabilizing in fifth dimensional consciousness. Now, a lot of people that I'm working with, they are having experiences of coming into fifth dimensional consciousness, but they're dropping back out. Something traumatic will happen to them. A death will happen. They'll get bad news, and they'll come out of that frequency. But there is a way. I have stabilized. There is a way to fully and completely stabilize in fifth dimensional consciousness. And that is what I teach. I teach you the tools to be able to fully and completely stabilize. So what I explain to everyone is that your butterfly self always exists within the holographic realms of consciousness. Your butterfly 5D self is always there. And we, at any moment, can tune into that frequency.
Right.
But there's big difference from tuning into that frequency and being stabilized in that frequency.
I see. Okay.
And so this is what I teach, how to stabilize in this frequency.
Okay. And do you think people after that are able to retain that stability?
Yeah,
and be in that butterfly consciousness?
Yes, because it depends who you're working with. So if you're working with me, because I'm an embodied, actualized butterfly consciousness, if you're working with me, we're all just like tuning forks. Yeah. So if you come into my frequency field, you're just going to unconsciously receive those codes. You see, that's why if you want to be a millionaire, hang around with millionaires. If you want to be a millionaire, don't hang around with like really, really poor people. Yeah. It all depends on like who you hang out with. So my job is an activator. I never really call myself a spiritual teacher because it's quite arrogant to assume that you can teach God anything. I remember we're all God in human form. I'm not here to teach God. That's totally weird and arrogant. I see myself as an activator, as a sacred reminder. I'm here to remind you of your divinity. I'm here to remind you of how loved you are by God.
Yeah. And also, Jen, of course, I when we spoke last, you talked about an incident where you were involved with a group of people who were seemingly in the butterfly consciousness, but they're not. Yes. So actually, lots of people, even here, I come across, who are in the garb of being spiritual. I mean, they would wear the outer appearance.
Yeah.
So they will wear saffron robes and they will do all the rituals. Yet from inside, they're really hollow because they haven't really transcended.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you even decipher or make out the difference as to who are the people who are really, truly, sincerely, and genuinely on the path of getting on to the fifth dimension consciousness?
When you hang out with those people, you feel amazing, you feel expanded, you feel excited, you feel passionate, you feel like you've got like petrol in your engine. When you hang out with fake spiritual people, it turns your light down. It makes you question yourself. They gaslight you. They ignore you. They leave you out. They go into their ego. You feel crap inside. That's how you know. Yeah. Like, are you hanging out with a group of people that make your heart feel like a little child and expanded? They're your people. If you're hanging out with a group of people that make you feel like they're leaving you out or you're judged or you're excluded, they are not your people.
And your experience was similar, right?
Yeah. So with my experience, I had a full-on spiritual awakening when I was 21, and I maintained that ridiculously high frequency for a good maybe 11 years. But what happened was, around the 11-year mark, I was hanging out. Well, I think I realized what was going on, but I'd been hanging out with a group that were fake spiritual. They dressed in white, they had the dreadlocks, they could speak Hindi, they'd been living in India. They ticked all the boxes that they were really, really genuinely spiritual. but they were all cliquey, exclusive, all about status, all about superficial, like clothes, look, hair. But because I was in angelic consciousness, that's been my biggest mistake, or my biggest lesson is I always assume everyone's in angelic consciousness, because I just see God in everyone. And so I just assume you are an absolute earth angel. I do. Yeah. And then these people, and they weren't. And I was like, I couldn't get my head around it until years later. And I was like, oh my God, they're just complete 3D nightmares.
Oh my God. So how did you get out of it?
Well, I realized, as soon as I realized, I just cut them off. I was like, I didn't realize what was going on.
Yeah. So since last year with this COVID, at least in my understanding, I've come to believe that this is a test for humanity to really ascend and come to an understanding of complete connectivity with one another and with nature. So have you in the last 1 year had any downloads with this information?
I've been having thousands and millions of downloads. I've been making videos all year about this year. Check out my videos, Jen McCarthy on YouTube.
Okay.
I think that there is an ancient plan to try to control this earth from lower frequency energies, and I think that we are now in a position within our galactic system whereby we are being bombarded by these photonic light particles, and these are also called God particles, and they come forth from galactic central, from Alcyon, the sun. And so what happens is that we are being bombarded with these God codes. And how my team explained to me what a photonic light particle is that it's a bit like a key, and humanity's DNA is a lock. So as these particles stream forth, they actually it's almost like a microwave as well. They kind of like microwave humanity's DNA to come out of its very hard kernel form to its fluffy popcorn. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So that's a very good analogy for 3D and 5D. 3D consciousness is where your DNA is like a hard popcorn kernel, but when your DNA has gone into 5D, it's like a fluffy popcorn, and it completely transforms on a molecular level. So all of these photonic light particles are pouring in, and they're doing all their big work and waking everyone up. But the old nefarious powers that were are well aware of this. They know exactly what's going on, and they're trying to create a filter with this energy, and they know that the children that are being incarnated at the moment are completely next level, like starseeds. And that's why they're being so heavily targeted with the vaccines and with the just with everything. The children are being targeted right now, and it's absolutely imperative that parents wake up and protect their children, because the old forces that governed our world do not care for us, and they do not care for our children. And people have to realize that, and they need to protect their children. That's got to be your number one priority. My number one priority in my life is protecting my son. Everything else is irrelevant to me apart from his protection, his divine protection. And I would devote my life to that. I would let go of everything for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all parents need to have that attitude. You need to be protecting your children now, because this old energy is leaving, but it's not leaving without a bit of a fight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Without creating a little bit of a ruffle, on planet Earth. Yeah.
It's creating a ruffle, a big ruffle.
Big ruffle. And Jen, I have noticed in my life that when you get onto this path, it's a very lonesome journey. It is a lonesome journey, because you're not able to relate to everybody in your environment. And even I'm not saying that you're superior to everybody, but it's just that you've experienced something which is very different from what others are experiencing, and they are not able to relate to you. They can't understand what language you're speaking. So
Yeah.
in your life, who has been your biggest supporter?
Well, on a spiritual level, my biggest supporter is Babaji, and it's called Herakan Baba. He is my guru. He is my light in the darkness. He
Okay.
is the one that sent that woman. I actually believe that Babaji took form as that Italian woman,
Okay. Okay.
because we would have freaked out if we would have saw him.
Oh, I see. And is he still in his body or not
No,
anymore?
he left. He left in 1984.
Okay. Okay. And on the physical realm, who has been your supporter?
I don't know really. He's been my supporter.
Anybody from your family?
Well, I mean, my family all support me. They don't agree with me. They don't see the world the way I see the world.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, last year I had a little bit of a falling out with my mum, because I was really awakened to the narrative, the control narrative. But my mum was like, no, the government love us. The government love us. They really care about us. Why would they want to hurt us? And I was like, Mum, no, this is not the case. So me and my mum had a little bit of a mismatch of our vibe. But usually I would say my mum has been my main supporter. But last year we had a little bit of a split energy between us, because I was very awakened to the narrative. She was completely and utterly asleep to the narrative. And so she was angry with me for speaking about the truth. That was not good for her.
Yeah.
So that's why before I would say, yeah, my mum. But last year it was a little bit iffy.
Okay. And have you come back to India after that experience?
Many times. Yeah, because when I came to India, I was like, because I had my spiritual awakening there, I always felt like I want my child to experience India as a child. And so I took Finn to India when he was 7 months old. We went for 6 months.
Wow.
And I took Finn. Finn's been to India 5 times, and we've up to 6 months. We've spent a lot of our life in India.
Amazing. And does he like India?
He loves India. India is part of his soul. Like he sometimes goes, oh, I don't like India things. I don't like hippie things. But that is his soul. His soul chose to be in India as a child a lot.
And you do believe that you've had previous incarnations in India?
I believe I've had about 2,000 incarnations in India.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So is it easy for you to blend with the lifestyle here in India?
Yeah, when I'm in India, I feel like home. When I'm in England, I feel home, but not completely home.
Okay.
It's weird. But when I'm in India, I'm just it's like my soul just starts like tingling. Just get these tingles in my soul that I'm home. Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. Okay, so in the end, what I'd really like to ask you, Jen, is if you had to give a message to our viewers in terms of either spiritual growth or really looking within and figuring out where is their journey taking them, what is that one message, especially during these challenging times?
Okay, my honest message is read my book, Twin Flames and the Event. It is an extraordinary ascension manual, and the feedback that I get, that people hold the book, they start getting Kundalini awakenings, they literally haven't even read it, just holding the book, they're getting crying, they're getting shivers. Reading their book, they're just getting fully activated. This is every single person that has read the book. It is a dot connector of the highest order. It is a total transmission from God consciousness. Wow. I explain all about ascension, all about Kundalini awakening, all about the intricacies of twin flame union. I talk about how to manifest your twin. I talk about every single thing about twin flames I cover in that book. I talk about God consciousness. I talk about how to come into God consciousness. I share about spiritual practices that truly work. Everyone that has read the book, the amount of messages I've got from people that have said, I have now fully completely stabilized in 5D from the book. I've had about 50 messages like that. So I would just say, read the book, because it's all there. I could give you a message now, but gift yourself that book. I've just released the audio, and Bill and Gail are going to be releasing the audio on
I would
Waterside
love
Publishing.
to read it. I'd love to read it. But
Oh,
could you,
must.
yeah, could you show the book on the screen if you have a copy?
Yeah, I have a copy. What I'd like to do is open up a page and just read you a paragraph.
Ah, right. Great. Okay.
Okay, so do you want to choose the page number and I'll just read you a paragraph?
Yes, please do. Okay.
Choose the page number.
99.
99, okay. The Earth Matrix has proven to be extremely challenging, even for the original founder monadic soul group, the original 144,000. It has been a long and arduous journey for even some of those members of that group to truly awaken out of the grips of the Matrix, particularly the divine masculines. However, this is very much shifting now, as so many divine masculines are waking up in this current energetic climate. The 144,000 is also a master number. 1 + 4 + 4 = 9, and 9 is the number of completion. Numerologically, there is nowhere to go within its singular trajectory when we reach number 9. This represents the ending, and it represents completion. The 144 code is a master number and a signal code for our DNA, which informs our dormant DNA, our dormant sleeping DNA, that it's time to come out of its sleep comatose phase into the vibratory frequency of activation and awakeness. Therefore, the 144 code is intricately connected to trigger points within our own DNA memory release system. So what this means is that when you're on your awakening path, if you're a star seed, then your higher self will have arranged with you to send you number sequences, whether that's going to be 1111.
I see that all the time. All the time.
Yeah. So this is what I'm explaining about. What it is that when you see the number sequences, these are a trigger to your DNA that you're stepping into your ascension timeline, that you're moving out of your matrix timeline, and that you're transitioning into your awakening timeline. Okay. So what it is that when you see these numbers, they're actually triggering and awakening your DNA.
Wow. That's a lovely message. Yeah. So on that note, Jen, thank you so much.
Thank you,
lovely having you. Thank you.
Thank you everyone so much. It's been lovely to be here. See you all again soon.
Thank you. So that was Jen McCarthy. Speaking with her clearly brought out a very special message that COVID and Corona since the last 1 year has really, in a way, been a blessing. It has come to make us understand that we all as a humanity have to go from third dimensional to the fifth dimensional vibration, because that's where our higher purpose, true purpose, our truth lies. Our connection to the divine, to God, really resides there. So let's all really understand this, probably pick up her book, and also try and get to a space where all of us can help each other get to that point. So on that note, goodbye for now. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Bye-bye.